today I changed the plan. Last time I was here, I said that I was going to read The Count of Monte Cristo, but I lied. I lied to you, I lied to me, I lied to everybody. And instead, I read another book because here's the thing. I did say before that it was an unrealistic goal, and I still went with it because I thought I was better than this and I thought I could do it and I believed in myself. But you know what happens when you believe in yourself? I failed. I believed a little too much in myself. So instead, I decided that I would read another classic that actually I forgot to mention earlier. So we got a little surprise classic coming up. Woo! And I was gonna say it's a hint, but here's the thing. I prepared myself a lot for this video, specifically for the classic ones. I like to dress up, I like to be on theme, and I really thought I was in theme today. Well, I still think I am, but now that I'm saying like, oh, it's a hint, I realize it might not be a hint, but I tried to do some like Tim Burton style makeup. At least that's what the tutorial said it was. And obviously I got dressed and can't even tell, but I got these yes, thank you. But it's not a hint. It's really not a hint. I thought I would read a short classic that I had a while back and I forgot I had it, to the point that I didn't even mention it before when I was mentioning all the classics I own, and it is Frankenstein. I read Frankenstein and I thought, oh, it's just 204 pages, so we're gonna read that real quick. I don't need to, I don't need so many days to read it. I can read it in one day. And just like with The Count of Monte Cristo, I believed a little too much in myself. And I was planning to record it and be done with the video a couple days ago. And I thought, I'd have enough time to read it and then record it all in one day. See these dark circles? You thought it was makeup? It is. But I finished it. Regardless of how long it took me and how bad I am at planning, I did finish it. And we're going to talk about it. The book starts with some letters from Robert Walton, and he's writing to his sister, talking about his travels to the ice, and he has a ship. Right now, he's telling her all about his journey and his adventure and how excited he is and how he's being really careful and whatever. Until he sends one more letter when he's like, okay, so we're stuck in the ice and something weird happened. This man on a sled came to us. I've been dying to make friends here in the ice. So I immediately befriended the first man that came to my ship. So my new friend is telling me the story of what happened to him, and I could tell that he was a little apprehensive about telling me the story. It seems like it was a bad thing that happened to him, but he told me anyways. And this is the story of my new friend Frankenstein. So Frankenstein starts telling his story because his friend is asking, okay, tell me, why are you running, what's going on? And Frankenstein says, it all started when I was born. So he starts telling the story about how his parents met. His dad's friend had this daughter that he loved very much, but he got sick and passed away. So his dad decided that he would take care of his daughter by marrying her. And then eventually they had him when they moved to Naples, and then they were the happiest family ever in the world. He had it all. He was very happy because he had everything he could ever wish for. He was beautiful, he was great, and his parents were very supportive of him. Eventually, his very rich parents started traveling to share their riches with the poor people. And they went one day and met with some poor families, and they saw this girl called Elizabeth with her little family. And her mom at the time told her like, oh, she's not really my daughter. I was just taking care of her because her parents are also gone. Because we used to have more money, but now we're all in misery. So yeah, we're all living in the streets. And Frankenstein's mom was like, well, I'll take that one. And she does. And so she brings her home, and her name is, I know her name, I'm looking for her last name. Who cares? Elizabeth. Frankenstein's mom specifically goes to him and says, I have a pretty present for my Victor. Tomorrow he shall have it. So eventually when he introduces Elizabeth to Victor, he took it very literal, and she was mine to protect. And I quote, my more than sister, since till death she was to be mine only. Foreshadowing? Yes. Then they grow up together, and he explains how they both really enjoyed exploring and the beauty of life, but in different ways. Because Elizabeth was more interested in the arts and the beauty of nature, on just enjoying things as they are, the beauty of them. Meanwhile, he was more curious as to why they are. He was not just content by enjoying things, he needed to understand things. He needed to learn to get to the bottom of everything. You know, and he got really interested on science, specifically in biology. He went to a party, and there he found these books by Cornelius Agrippa, and his father, when he saw the books, he was just like, get rid of those books are not good. But he never really explained why. So Victor's curiosity piqued now, because if somebody tells you not to do something, then you really want to do it. So he reads the whole book. In fact, he now starts researching more about this specific information that's in those books, and more books by this author. He was specifically curious about death, because he said, like, even though we've learned a lot about nature and we've learned a lot about bodies, like we can dissect, we can do anatomy, but we still do not understand death fully. And that is what he really wanted to understand. And I like this quote that he says, I was left to struggle with a child's blindness, added to a student's thirst for knowledge. Now, he makes a very big point while he's telling his own story about how he has been so privileged his whole life, how he's never had misfortune, he's always had everything he wanted to, everything he needed. He's had it all, he's had happiness his whole life only. Now he says this is the first time misfortune has ever occurred in his life. What happened was that Elizabeth, his sister, they call themselves cousins, and they're actually not related, so I feel weird calling her his sister, knowing what happens. Elizabeth, she gets the scarlet fever, and she's gonna get better, but they keep asking their mom not to go visit her. She does anyways, because she's worried, so she goes, and she also gets the fever. Now, Elizabeth, being younger, she gets better, and she's fine, but the mom's still getting more and more ill until she passes away. And this is the first time that Victor has ever experienced loss in any way. And obviously, it's not just any loss. It's like his first experience with loss was such a big deal. And he could really not understand the feeling of like knowing that somebody that you love and that was there with you every single day is now gone forever. He just does not understand that, and he does not accept that. Now he goes to college, and the first thing he does is that he sends some letters of introductions to his professors, and one of them being M. Kremp. And he was not really nice to him, because Victor is so excited about this philosophy that he's learning about, these books that he's been reading, and this professor just basically mocks him, and he's like, that you've been wasting your time reading that nonsense, that's crap, you might as well just start over learning everything again, because everything you know is either outdated or useless. So Victor, of course, does not just accept that. He goes on to the lecturing with another professor called Waldman, and this professor he finds different. He actually likes the way he's speaking, and he enjoys his talk. He keeps thinking about the conversation he had with the other professor about those books that he's been reading and these philosophies and all that. So he says, "So much has been done," exclaimed the soul of Frankenstein. "More, far more will I achieve. I will pioneer a new way, explore unknown powers, and unfold to the world the deepest mysteries of creation." These conversations are making him more and more interested in the topic instead of driving him away from it. He pays M. Waldman a visit, this professor gives him a very different reaction to what he says, because he tells him the same thing, what he's interested in, what he's reading, and this professor actually encourages him to keep studying that. He even allows him to use his laboratory, to use his tools, his things and everything, his books, and he even calls him a disciple. So he finally found somebody to be like an ally to him in these studies. Meanwhile, he became really focused on his studies, and the only thing he would do was that he didn't even visit home anymore, he didn't write home, he was just very focused on it. He started studying anatomy and death and trying to understand the real source of death. And after many days and nights of incredible labor and fatigue, he succeeded in discovering the cause of generation in life. Nay, more, I became myself capable of bestowing animation upon lifeless matter. So now, it's not that he understands what makes life happen, he understands how to recreate life, how to reanimate. So now, he understands how to do it, but now he's lacking the materials. So it gets gross. Now he needs to go and harvest organs and muscles and everything that makes a human body. He needs to go and find these pieces to his puzzle, because now he knows how to assemble it. His plan is to make this creature 8 feet in height and proportionably large. So he's trying to make like a superhuman. But here we started seeing how his mind is starting to get a little, what do I say? Like, now he needed to feel powerful, because this is what he says. A new species would bless me as its creator and source. Many happy and excellent natures would owe their being to me. No father could claim the gratitude of his child so completely as I should deserve theirs. It's not about curiosity and learning anymore. I mean, I guess kinda, but it's becoming a little more of his narcissism taking over him, and this feeling of being a creator of life, almost like he's playing God. Even though he realizes that he's doing something questionable, his desire for this power is stronger. He even says that his human nature is starting to, kick in. Like, he's disgusted by what he's doing. He's collecting bones, he's collecting eyeballs. Like, he does feel grossed out, but he feels like he's gone so far and he's done so much work that he can't just stop now. And it's become an obsession where, even he realizes it's an obsession. And another good quote that I really like, he says, "A human being in perfection ought always to preserve a calm and peaceful mind, and never to allow passion or a transitory desire to disturb his tranquility. I do not think that the pursuit of knowledge is an exception to this rule. If the study to which you apply yourself has a tendency to weaken your affections and to destroy your taste for those simple pleasures in which no alloy can possibly mix, then that study is certainly unlawful, that is to say, not befitting to the human mind." So he's finally assembled all of the pieces. His creature is there, still lifeless, but it's there. And he looks at it and he feels guilty. After he sees what he's created, he's like, I should not have done that. But again, I've gone too far and there's no going back. So it gives it life. The creature opens its eyes and he gets so scared, because then he always knew since he was making it, like, yeah, this thing is ugly. But it was after he saw it alive, eyes open, nose breathing, mouth moving, feet walking, that he realized how disgusting and ugly this creature was. And he was so terrified that he just ran from it. And the creature was trying to reach out for him and trying to talk. And he was like, oh my god, like, ugh. So he ran. And he locks himself in his bedroom and tries to fall asleep. He's like, I just want to forget that this ever happened. And he has this nightmare that he could, it woke him up. So he wakes up to the creature holding up the curtains. And then again, he just runs. He's terrified of his own creation that he's made. He has all of these thoughts as well of regret and like, how could I do this? Like this, and wondering to himself, like, how did I get this far? How did I make this thing? How did I give it life knowing how horrible this thing was? So he just leaves. he just runs away. He can deal with it right now. So he goes out, he meets with his friend Henry, and he's just pretending nothing happened, you know, like, oh, so how's everything? How's everybody? Let's go to class. But in his mind, he's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. After a whole day of class, Henry's like, oh, we should go to your apartment. And he's like, yeah. So he like runs ahead to his apartment, opens the door, checks under everything, checks everything. The monster's not there. The creature's not there, I should say. We don't call him a monster. The creature's not there. And so he's like, come in, Henry, it's all good. And Henry's like, should I ask? He's in his mind wondering like, okay, what the heck happened? Where is the creature? But also, he's not my problem anymore. So I'm good. He just disappeared. Now, even though he's moving on in his life like that never happened, he's still feeling a little bit guilty about that and regretful. So every time this professor praises him and he's like, oh, you're doing amazing with science, you're progressing to your goal, like, I know what you wanted to achieve and I feel like you will achieve it someday. And he's just like, cut it out, because he keeps thinking about what he's done, but he can't tell anybody, not his friend, not his professor, not his family. He just has to live with this in his mind, but still not do anything about it apparently, because the monster is still somewhere out there in the world, and even though he's feeling guilty, he's still letting it go away and not dealing with his real issues. So yeah, you deserve to feel that way. So then next day he gets a letter from his dad, and the letter's like, I have horrible news, I don't even know how to start, I don't know how to tell you. Your brother is dead. William died. But he didn't just die, he was murdered. And we know that because he had strangle marks in his neck, like somebody's hand. And he had a picture of your mom in his pocket, and they stole that too. So we don't know what happened, why would they do that? Like, are they trying to steal from him? Why did they steal the picture? So Victor is completely distraught, and he's like, I gotta go home right now. He grabs a horse, he goes home, he meets with the family, everybody's a mess, Elizabeth's crying, his dad's crying, and he's confused, and he's like, what happened? And they're like, we don't know, we're still trying to find the killer, we haven't found any hints or anything. So Victor walks outside, and it's storming, and he's like yelling to this guy like, why me? And now he does what any normal person would do after you create a monster that's killing your family and it's set loose on the world. He goes and takes a break. He goes to the mountains. He needs to see the mountains, he needs to see the snow, he wants to see the ice, the beauty of it, the view from up there. So he just goes away. And while he's there, guess who meets with him? The consequences of his actions. The creature. And the creature finally sits him down to talk. Yeah, he can talk now. I bet he didn't know that, because he has no idea what's going on with the poor thing that he brought to life. So the creature sits him down and he's like, we're gonna talk. And this part, I cried. I cried in the movie and I cried in the book, because this is where the monster, the creature, this is where the creature is finally telling him what made him what he is right now. So the creature is telling him about how after he was abandoned, he was alone in the streets, cold, hungry, thirsty, feeling a lot of feelings that he does not know how to control. His brain is now starting to have thoughts because he was brought into life as an adult. His brain was the brain of somebody else, so it was a functioning, he had thoughts, he had memories that were not his, he had a lot going on in there, but he didn't have that slow process that you go through childhood to learn how to manage those emotions. So he's just trying to find somebody to help him out because he's alone and he lacks company. And that's when he realizes how ugly he is, because people are terrified of him. He walks into a place, everybody runs out. So he runs into the forest to be alone. While he's there, he finds a cabin, and he thinks like, okay, maybe they're gonna be nicer. They're not, they run away. So instead, he goes and hides to another cabin also in that neighborhood, and he hides in a little, like, I forgot the word, but where pigs live, they have a little pig house in there. He hides in the pig house, and he lives there for months. He's eating little seeds and stuff that he can find. He's drinking water that they put out for the pigs. But also, he's been listening on the family. and he hears them talk to each other. He sees how beautiful they are, and he sees his reflection, and he realizes that he's not like them. But he thinks, maybe if I'm a good person, they might be interested in being my friends because they like who I am and not how I look, right? So he's seeing how they interact with each other. He learns their name. He learns the dynamics of the family. He learns what to do. He sees that they're struggling in the cold. So he goes out at night and gathers wood for them for their fires and brings it home. And they're so thankful for this mysterious friend. And he's so happy. So he finally gathers the courage one day. He gets some flowers. And at the time, the only person at home is the grandfather. The grandfather is blind. So he walks into the cabin, and the grandfather's like, oh, who's there? And he's like, a friend. I'm lost, but I'm looking for friends. They have a nice conversation. And he tells the grandfather how people are so horrible, and he doesn't have a single friend because he's so ugly and people are scared of him. And the old man is like, you're gonna find somebody, I know. Oh, wait, I gotta read that quote. He says, to be friendless is indeed to be unfortunate, but the hearts of men, when unprejudiced by any obvious self-interest, are full of brotherly love and charity. Rely therefore on your hopes, and if these friends are good and amiable, do not despair. Because the creature has been telling him about these friends that he's seen, and they haven't seen him, but he's so excited to go and finally introduce himself to them, but he's scared because he thinks they're not gonna like him because he's ugly. So the old man is like, do it, people are nice, they're not gonna kill you, ugly. And then the old man is like, can you tell me their names and where they live? Just curiosity. And so the old man is like, I'm blind and I can't judge you. So the monster give him his hand, and he holds his hand. And in that moment, when the old man takes a hold of his giant deformed hand, that's when the family comes in, the mom, the dad, the kids, they walk in all at the same time as the man holds the hand, and the creature's like, please protect me now, you're my friend, you are the friend I'm talking about. And the old man's like, oh my god, who are you? And so the family kicks him out, and they push him and they kick him, and the dad grabs a stick and starts beating him up, and he's like, get off my dad. And the monster is crying and he runs away, and he just hides somewhere else, and he's sobbing because these were his friends, and he's been waiting months to finally introduce himself to them because he was scared that they were gonna do exactly what they did. It's so sad. If you have a heart, you should be crying. So the next day he goes back because he's gonna try to apologize and explain himself. The house is empty, and he hides in there because he hears people coming in, and it's Felix, the dad, and like somebody else from the neighborhood. And they're like, oh, we had to run away from this house. We're never coming back because now my dad is not safe. That thing going around. And he's so sad. So he just runs away. And in the way where he's in the forest, he sees this girl fall into the river, or the running water, and he goes and saves her. And when he brings her out of the water, he's like trying to resurrect her, and this guy comes over calling for her, and he sees the monster on top of her. He sees the creature on top of her. And he's like, oh my god, a monster! He pulls out a gun and shoots him. And he's like, this is what I get every time that I'm nice to people. I go and save people, I go and feed people, I get them wood, I try to keep them warm, and I get hurt, I get kicked, I get beat up, I get shot. Humans are not nice. And I'm done. This is it. So this is where the creature has a request for Frankenstein. He's like, I do not want to be alone. I can't be alone. The way I was made, the brain I was given, the heart I was given, it was not to be alone. But humans are only gonna hurt me. The only thing that humans want when they see me is to kill me. So all I'm asking is that you make me an equal. I want a lady, I want a companion for me, and I will never, ever, ever harm another person again. Because the only reason why I'm doing this is because I'm feeling so much pain. But if you give me a companion, she's gonna make that pain go away. So I'm not gonna have any reason to hurt anybody anymore. So think about it. But also, you shouldn't. Because if it's so bad what I'm doing, killing people, then why do you feel so justified to want to kill me? Why does everybody feel like it's the right thing to kill me, but I have to love and respect you? Why do I have to keep you guys safe and protected and not touch you? He learned how to read, he learned how to write, he learned how to think, and he's got a point. So now Frankenstein's thinking about all the possibilities. He's like, okay, so I could make an equal and make him go away as he says. But also, I don't want to make another one of those things. Like, I promised myself I would never do that again. They might have children, and I might be bringing in this world a race of monsters that will just terrorize people forever. But he keeps thinking and thinking, and at the end, he agrees. He agrees to give him a partner and to do whatever he asks so that he promises that he will leave people alone forever. He promises that he's gonna move to somewhere in South America, because apparently there's no people in South America. No son gente, na. Go to Chile, go to Argentina, I don't care. Just don't come here back again. So the creature's like, okay, don't worry about calling me. I will follow you everywhere you go in the world until you deliver this promise. I'm gonna be always behind you. I'm gonna be chasing you no matter where you go. He goes home. When he gets home, his father tells him, like, you know what's the one thing that would make me happy in these horrible circumstances that we're right now? If you were to marry Elizabeth. And Victor's like, I should marry her, shouldn't I? And she's like, yeah, we should get married. So everybody agrees that, yeah, we should get married right now. Frankenstein goes on a trip with some of his companions really far away to, I forget where he goes. He goes to a trip really far away with his friends, and he brings all of his equipment because he's planning to create the companion for the creature over there. So he brings all of his equipment, all of his science stuff. When they finally get to their destination, he makes a little lab for himself and he locks himself in there. He has the body parts, he's got everything, this man. So now that it's been so long since the last time that he's attempted to do this, he's not as calloused as he was before. So he's really disgusted by what he's doing. And every step he takes, he's like, oh my god, should I really be doing this? This is disgusting, I am grossed out. When he's finally finished with the body, he's just missing the reanimation. The monster arrives because he has been following him the whole time and he's been watching. So he's like, oh, she's ready, my girl's ready. And Frankenstein's like, I'm not doing it. And he's like, are my running ears running even more? Because I thought I heard you say that you're not gonna do it anymore. And Victor's like, yeah, I'm just gonna take whatever consequences. If you wanna kill me, you're gonna kill me. But I'm not doing this crap. And he destroys the body he already made. So the creature's like, okay, I'm not gonna forget this one. And I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna be with you on your wedding night. So now Victor's like, okay, so I guess I'm dying on my wedding night. Good to know, Well, whatever. So they go back home. There's a lot of things to happen in the trip, but the important thing is that when he finally goes back home, he is now gonna marry Elizabeth. So he makes all the preparations, they do the wedding and everything, and he decides that they're gonna go that same night on a ship and they're gonna sail away. He's trying to run away from the monster. He's still thinking about it. He's like, he might have still followed me, but now he's trying to convince himself that everything's gonna be fine. Like, we didn't see him on the boat, so we might be fine. I didn't see him. So now they arrived to their destination and he's still thinking about all that he's done. So he just tells Elizabeth, like, I just need a minute. Do you mind going back to the house and I'll be back in. I really gotta think. He's convinced that the monster's killing him. When I read that he said that, I was like, of course you think it's you that he was talking about. Because the monster did threaten to kill, and he said, I'll be with you on your wedding night. And he's been killing his family and loved ones. And Frankenstein, the genius, the scientist, the doctor, he thinks, he adds 2 + 2, but it equals 5. Because he says, like, oh, if I put all this together, the conclusion is he's gonna kill me next. When he's alone outside, after he tells Elizabeth to go home, he hears her screaming. Of course, she's screaming. She goes in and she's dead. Like, I thought he was the genius. Am I the genius? I'm gonna go collect some body parts then and make a creature. She dies, and the monster's like, I told you I would be here with you on your wedding night. And he was like, I thought you meant to kill me. And he's like, no. I'm gonna do to you what you did to me. You left me alive to suffer in the world, so now I'm gonna leave you alive to suffer in the world. It's kind of poetic. So yeah, whatever. So now Victor is like, oh my god, now I'm really mad. Now I'm actually gonna do something. So he tries to swing to the monster runs away. He doesn't see him again. And now Victor is without a brother, without Justine, without a bride. And then when he gets home, he tells the dad what happened, and the dad got so heartbroken that he died too. Oh, and I forgot to mention that on the way back home before he got married, his friend Henry also died, also strangled by some giant hands. His friend, his dad, his cousin, his wife, his brother, everybody died. But now he's got enough and he's gonna do something about it. So now he decided, now I am determined to live. He wanted to die before while his family was alive because of the guilt, but now that his whole family died, he's resolved to stay alive because now he's got to avenge his family. So now the monster again shows up out of nowhere and he's like, now I'm satisfied. Now you gave me what I want, because I don't want you to want to die. I mean, I don't want you to die. I want you to want to live so that we can stay in this game forever, because I want you to suffer as much as I suffered. He's like, yeah, and that's exactly what we'll do. So now they go and travel the world chasing each other, because now the monster keeps disappearing. Every time that Victor is feeling like about giving up or like, oh, I lost track of him, then the creature leaves some hints for him to find him, because he wants him to continue the game. Every time that Victor's about to give up, he's like, here, a little hint for you so you can find me, you know where I am. And they just keep chasing each other, this game of cat and mouse, forever, until Victor starts getting too tired and too sick, and he's starting to get old, and he's dying. But that's when we finally get to Robert that was writing the letters at the beginning, because he finds this ship where he's pretty sure he saw the monster get in, and he finds this crew and he tells them about it and whatever. So now we go to present time, to after Victor's done telling the story, he lays down and he's feeling sick. Now the captain is running to the sister again, and he's like, I would not have believed the story, but I saw the letters myself, the ones that he said were sent to him at the time, and later I saw the monster myself. And the monster came in and he was crying on top of Victor's body because Victor passed away, Victor died. The monster says to Robert, that is also my victim. Oh Frankenstein, generous and self-devoted being, what does it avail that I now ask thee to pardon me? I who irretrievably destroyed thee by destroying all thou loved. So now that he's passed away, the monster is feeling regret, because the monster was a victim of the circumstances and being thrown into the world without having the resources and means to manage his own emotions, and having all these really strong feelings of hate and pain because the world did not accept him. So even though his actions are not justified, he was also a victim. And even at the end, all that he wanted was companionship. So after everything, when his dad passed away, he was so sad, because even though they had a horrible relationship, his dad was the only person in the whole world that he ever had to talk with. Even if he was in pain, even if he was for revenge, and even if he was really toxic. But his father was the only human in the world that he had a relationship, whether good or bad. And now he was gone too. He was like, I'm done with people. People will always see me as a monster. And now the only person that I had is gone. So I'm done. And that is because the real monster was humanity. Okay, so now that I'm done narrating the book. Let's talk about it. This is the part that I get controversial, okay? So I watched the movie. I know there's a million movies. I specifically watched Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. An amazing movie because I feel like this is the most realistic rendition of the book. I know there's a lot of where they even add extra characters like the what's it called, the assistant. they have like the Frankenstein with the screws coming out of his neck and all that. They make him green. They say his skin is yellow. But I'm gonna say something very controversial. I like the movie a little bit more because let me explain. I like the movie because I feel like the emotional parts of the story in the book, they didn't go as in depth. And I feel like in the book, obviously we have Frankenstein as our unreliable narrator to tell us the story from his perspective. But in the movie, we get to see more of the monsters, the creatures' perspective of things, because we have like both, we have both points of views. Yeah. So like that story, for example, that he's telling Victor about the family that he finds, the blind man and all of that, we don't see him telling that to Victor in the movie. We see him as he's experiencing it because we follow him after he's been abandoned on the streets, and we get to see the slow process of him becoming the monster, going from just the creature to the monster, Meanwhile here we just have Victor telling us all that, and because he's the unreliable narrator, he tells us the story from his perspective. And even when he does relate to the creature's feelings, or even when he's trying to relate his story as accurate as he can, it's still tinted a little bit by his perspective of the creature. So and that's perfect, that makes sense. But like I feel like I felt more of a connection to the creature while watching the movie, because here we only see him as a monster until the end, where he gets to say his side of the story and explain a little bit more. Meanwhile, in the movie, we get to see him as a victim the whole time. And only at the end, we get to see him angry and as the monster. But we've already sympathized with him so much that when that finally happens, it's like easier to relate to. And that's great. It doesn't mean I didn't like it. I'm just saying because I came from watching the movie first, I came with that kind of perspective of that we're gonna have a very emotional perspective of the creature in the book. It was a little more like him explaining, this is why I killed the kid, rather than I'm suffering, that's what I mean. That's all. The book is still amazing, and I think it's a 4. And the reason why I'm not giving it a 5, it's only because I feel like it's hard with Frankenstein, because this is like so overused in media already. There's so many movies and shows and versions of it that my mind was already like, I had already an idea. And like I said, after watching the movie that I love so much, I was like, okay, this is a really emotional story, and it was. But I feel like there's so many things in the book that were a little bit underwhelming, because I came from already had consumed all that media. So it's not the book's fault, is that I had already all these different versions. So, not saying that the others were better or worse, but it was just a lot to compare with, and it was very hard. And a story like this that I've been hearing since I was a baby, since the time where I thought Frankenstein was the monster. I mean, he is, but you know what I mean. It's hard, like to come completely unbiased to read the book. But still, the book was amazing, and we love Mary Shelley, and society's the monster.